my first year, my goal was to sell 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning. And I did everything I thought that I could do to sell 1 million copies. And I was 987,000 copies short of the goal.
Welcome to the Becoming Irreplaceable Podcast. This is the place where we teach you how to build an enduring sales and business career that supports your ideal life. Each week, we sit down with high-performing sales professionals, entrepreneurs, and experts who have built wildly successful businesses and have great personal lives. If you want to learn how to win top-shelf clients, how to lead and manage small but effective teams, and how to design a business that allows you to live life on your terms, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, John Israel, author, coach, and keynote speaker, also known as Mr. Thank You. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive into the show. All right. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited for you guys to meet my next guest. He is a longtime friend. You probably heard of him, Hal Elrod, also known as Yo Pal Hal, also known as the founder of the Miracle Morning. Hal, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, John, dude, it's good to see you, AKA Izzy. Do people know you as Izzy, or is that just your close buddies?
Oh man, it comes up. Just starting the podcast and talking to friends. I hear Izzy more often, but it was an era. It's an era of human beings. There's a group of friends from high school. That's when that name first came out.
Yeah.
And from my Cutco days, right? People who knew me from Cutco call me Izzy all the time. But the rest of the world, it's just Mr. Thank You. It's
Well, and it's just like when you said Yo Pal Hal, like that. That was
sure.
For decades, over a decade or two, that was what most friends called me, and still John Berghoff will call me Yo Pal, and but I'm not publicly Yo Pal Hal anymore. So,
but it's funny though, right? Because I remember I had a sales rep that worked for me a while ago, and he heard that someone called me Izzy, so he said, "Hey, what's up, Izzy?" I'm like, "You don't get to call me that. That's not. That is a certain type of person who gets to call me that.
That's a privileged title. That's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, hey, I'm excited to have this conversation, and we've been planning this for a while. And Hal and I have a very, very special relationship. So we knew each other since, like 2004, 2005, back in our Cutco days. And it's funny how. I don't know if you remember this story, but I just shared this with someone recently. So Hal was a very early inspiration in my life. He, just to kind of summarize some of his history. So he was one of the top reps in the history of the Cutco Knife Company. And part of that he was hit head on by a drunk driver, pronounced dead at the scene, brought back to life, and became the sales champion. And it was just this remarkable story. Everybody in the company knew about it. And there was a moment where we met at a sales conference. It was the rep development conference, and I was just getting going. I was just getting my career started, and I wanted to do a big summer sales result. I wanted to win a scholarship. And so when we were talking, I met you after you spoke, and I just said, "Hey, I have a question for you. I know you did this big thing where you donated a bunch of your money back to this hospital that saved your life,
yeah.
and I want to do something like that. But I'm not recovering from cancer. I don't have anything crazy that's happened to me. Like what do I do?" And I don't know if you remember saying this to me, because we didn't know each other yet, but you said, just find something that is so important to you that it's more important than any excuse you would give to not show up this summer. I never forgot that. And
Wow.
I don't think you know what I did, but what I did that summer was I made a commitment. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so I donated
I remember that, yes.
So I donated a portion of all my sales to Parkinson's research, and donated it to his name, on his name at the end of the year. And ultimately, it inspired this whole series of things. It launched my career and all sorts of stuff. But it was funny because we weren't even friends yet. But that was like an early inspiration that you had that absolutely catapulted my career.
That's amazing. No, and as you're saying that, I'm remembering it. I remember that. Yeah. And that became a huge part of who you are, which is like contributing and giving back. And so I'm realizing that I get all the credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then fast forward, 4 or 5 years later, like, my wife and I are at your house with you on the launch of the Miracle Morning, entering orders on Amazon for all these pre-sales. And just, it's been a real joy watching you grow, right? Launching the Miracle Morning. I was there when you, I think we're getting a little bit like insider conversation. People don't really know some of the background here. So,
all right.
why don't you kind of tell everybody, what is the Miracle Morning, right? What is it, and how did this idea come to you?
Yeah, for those that don't know the Miracle Morning, it's a morning routine. That's the simplest way of describing it. But it wasn't an idea that I had for a book, or which is what it became, and it's a book that's worldwide best-selling book. It was literally my desperate attempt to turn my own life around. So the
Mm.
short version of the story is 2008. The U.S. economy crashes. I was a coach. I had hit Hall of Fame with Cutco, and now I've started my own business, and I'm coaching salespeople and entrepreneurs. And my business is going great. And then all of a sudden, I start losing clients because their industries, whether it was real estate or sales, they were being affected by the economic crash, and they couldn't afford to pay me for coaching. And so in 6 months, I lost over half of my income, and I couldn't pay the mortgage. I had to foreclose on my house. I was living on credit cards, and it was just this downward spiral into debt and fear and my identity crisis. And our good buddy John Berghoff, who I know you've had on the podcast before, he sent me a Jim Rohn audio after I told him that I was really struggling. And he said, "Listen to this audio. It'll shift your mindset, and this can change your life." And I'm like, "I need money, dude. I don't need audios." And he's like, "All right." And so, but Jim Rohn said in that audio a quote that became a catalyst to change my life faster than I ever thought possible. It was, "Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development." And I quantified that. And if anybody's watching or listening, I'd encourage you to quantify this right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, what level of success did I want? What level of success do you want? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of personal development? Those are the questions I ask myself. And the way you would measure your level of personal development, it's like, what are your daily rituals and routines that are enabling you to develop your physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, spiritual capacities to become that level 10 version of yourself? And the answer was, I wanted level 10 success and fulfillment. And my level of personal development was like at a 2 or a 3. And I think this is
Mm.
the disconnect for the majority of our society, is we all want external results at the highest level. And yet very few people have a daily ritual that enables them to become a better version of themselves, that level 10 version of who they can be at their full potential. And so I started this practice the next morning with 6 practices that became the Miracle Morning. And within 2 months, I doubled my income at the height of the Great Recession. I hated running, so I committed to run a 52-mile ultra marathon. And my depression went away literally my very first Miracle Morning, because I was like, this is it. If I start every day with this much clarity and energy and motivation, I don't feel depressed. I feel excited. I feel inspired. And the rest is kind of history. I started teaching to my coaching clients, and it worked for them, even though most of them like resisted. I'm not a morning person. I go, no, neither was I. Like, just do these things, and I'm telling you, you won't be able to stay in bed. It'll be so excited to start your day this way. And now, it's been, God, that was 15, 17 years ago. And the Miracle Morning, the new book, the updated and expanded edition, came out a couple years ago. And now millions of people around the world do their Miracle Morning, and it's been amazing.
That's wild, man. And what I remember about that time is because we were actually going through a speaker training together, right? This is when we were going
Yes.
through the James Malinchek speaker training. And what was so funny, and so this is really good because we talk a lot about how people evolve over time, right? How salespeople can evolve from one role to the next, or one product to the next, or just what you're trying to do with your life. And I remember you were really trying to make like this, like being a drunk driving speaker, right? Because you were
Yes.
like the victim of this, right? And you had an
Yeah.
amazing story that was already changing lives. And I remember you're like, yeah, but I started this Miracle Morning thing. I don't know, maybe there's something to it. And I remember we were at an event, and you're like, dude, check out this video. And it was some gentleman who like made a video at like 5 a.m, and it was like dark outside. And he
Yeah.
was just like elated and talking about how he heard about this Miracle Morning thing from
An
one of your
interview that
coaching
I did. It was
clients.
just an interview that I did on like freeconferencecall.com. Yeah.
Yeah, and he started doing it, and I remember that was like the seed of like, I don't know, maybe there's something here. And
Yeah.
I was like, but let's keep going. And
Yeah.
and just slowly starting to see it affecting you, and then it positively affecting other people.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I'm curious, why do you think, because you're not the first person to talk about like it's good to have a morning routine, but what you have done is arguably the most successful morning routine concept in the world.
Yeah.
What do you think was so unique about the Miracle Morning concept, and why it's been able to really like kind of get traction with so many people?
Yeah, I love that question, and there's a few different reasons. One is it became my life's work, my life's mission. I committed to do my mission when I published, and I self-published the book in 2012 because I didn't have any leverage to get a publisher. Like no one knew who I was, right? I didn't have an audience or anything. I didn't have a platform. So I was like, all right, I'll self-publish it. And I'm just going to go guerrilla marketing style and do everything in my power. And this was back when podcasts were relatively new, 2012. So I just start cold emailing every podcaster out there. Every time I got on a podcast, if it went well, which it usually did, I would say, hey, do you know any other podcasters that you think would really enjoy this message? And this was from our Cutco sales training, which was a referral-based business. And they'd go, oh yeah, I know some people. I go, hey, don't worry about it now. I appreciate it. If I send you an email, I'll literally write the text message or email that you can copy and paste, edit, and just send to them. Would you do that for me? They're like, sure. And as soon as I got off the podcast, I fired off an email to them, said, thank you so much for being willing to do this. It means so much to me. I'll make you look good, right? So I used all the tactics that I learned as a salesperson to get referrals and make it easy for the person, make them feel comfortable, right? Thank them in advance for the behavior that I was asking them for. And that's how I started to grow. But it was slow going, man. My first year, my goal was to sell 1 million copies of The Miracle Morning. And I did everything I thought that I could do to sell 1 million copies. And I was 987,000 copies short of the goal. Like, right. And so I dusted myself off and I was like, I guess I'll try again. And then year 2, I tried again. And I went from 13,000 copies sold in year 1 to 23,000 in year 2. But at this pace, I'm still like on a 60-year trajectory to hit my goal, and I'm like, but I just committed. I'm like, does this mean enough to me? Is this meaningful enough? This message, this product that I'm selling, if you will, Miracle Morning, this morning routine, that I'd be willing to dedicate the rest of my life to it. And I was like, yes, this has changed my life, and it's changed the life of countless people that I've taught it to. I have a God-given responsibility to share this message with the world, whether I'm selling, whatever it is. So I just kept trying, and it took 6 years to sell 1 million copies, which, if you look at the graph, it was like it really accelerated. But I want to share this message early with everybody right now, which is whatever you're working towards in your life or your business, odds are it's not happening as fast as you want it to. That's just human nature, right? We see somebody succeeding and we go, man, I want to be there now. But here's what I realized, that when you finally get to the point that you've been working so hard for so long, whatever your big goal is, your dream, you want to be a millionaire, you want to be whatever it is, you want to buy a house, whatever it is, you want to lose weight. When you finally get there, and the only way you get there is by maintaining unwavering faith through the doubts and the fears and the insecurities and the ups and the downs and the obstacles, you got to maintain that faith that you can get there, and you got to put forth extraordinary effort. Keep going, keep moving forward, even when you doubt yourself, even when you don't feel like it. And when you finally get to that point, like when I finally sold 1 million copies after 6 years, you almost never wish it would have happened any sooner, because the timing becomes perfect. You look back in hindsight and you go, oh, it had to take this long. I had to meet that person in year 1 that led to that relationship in year 2, that led to that opportunity in year 3, that led to that breakthrough in year 4, right? Like you look back and you go, it happened exactly as it was supposed to. So wherever you are now, my friends, be at peace with it and maintain unwavering faith and put forth extraordinary effort until you get to that point that you desire to go, and nothing can stop you.
Well, so first of all, it's fantastic. A lot of you guys don't know. So we got into like framework number 2, which is one of Hal's famous frameworks, which I want to go into a second, which is called the miracle equation. And I love that, because really when you think about, because again, we were friends. So I was just watching this from afar and watching each little domino go down. And it's one of those things, like, it's like, well, when you look back on it, it's like, well, of course he did it, because he didn't stop.
Yeah.
Like he can't, like, I remember that we were staying at your house one time during that time where you were doing 100 podcasts. And I think you were like, hey, sorry guys, I don't mean to be rude, but I got to go record a podcast right now. Yeah. And it was just like, you were just committed to it. And I think that's something that we need to remember, is that, patience is such a hard thing to practice.
Yeah.
But it's a requirement for significant success.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are just so many things that you want that the only way to get it is patience, and not like patience, like sitting around,
Yeah.
but like working your tail off and patient with the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would
You know?
say like that word patience, like that's one. Consistency is another way to frame it, right?
Sure.
Faith and effort while you're patient, right? So yeah, it's like it's proactive patience, I guess, if we were coining a phrase. Yeah, no, it's just continuing to move forward. And one of my friends from years ago, I haven't spoken in a long time, but he was very successful, Cutco guy, then became one of the top mortgage guys in Sacramento where we used to live. And his voicemail said it all. There's always a way when you're committed. Like that's
Mm,
how his voicemail ended. It just, hey, have a great day. And remember, there's always a way when you're committed. And like you just put it in
mm.
another way, which is like, well, of course Hal got there because he didn't stop. He was just committed for as long as it took. And that really is the secret to success, because you often don't figure out how to get where you want to be until you're you learn something that leads to it's like it all builds on itself. And right now you might not be the person in terms of your current level of consciousness or awareness or knowledge or skill or abilities or network, right? Like you are exactly who you need to be right now to go to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level, right? But it's like we want to be where we want to be down the road before we've done the things that earn us the right to get to that spot.
Well, so we're gonna. This is actually really interesting, because I would say now you just published the newest version of the Miracle Morning book. Yes, what is it? What's that one called?
Yes,
It's
the
the Miracle Morning.
After 50. If you're under 50, this is for your parents and grandparents. If you're over 50, this is for you.
Yeah. Well, and so what's really interesting, because I'm 42 myself. I know you're just a couple years older,
46,
and
yeah.
and so we're not over that age, but we speak to a lot of people who are.
Yeah.
And I think once you're in that like 40 to 60 range, there's an interesting mental place that you can get into, which is, well, what have I created so far?
Yeah.
How far have I gotten? And I definitely felt that when I look at like things that I've wanted to accomplish my entire life that I still haven't yet. Now,
Yeah.
Granted, I've done a lot of great stuff.
Sure.
You've done a lot of great stuff, but I think there's a lot of people out there who still feel like, but well, what if I'm just doomed to be as I've always been? What if this is the best that it's going to get?
Yeah.
Based on, especially, co-authoring this new book, like, can you speak to that person, that individual who's maybe they're invested into their career, they've gone a pretty far ways, but maybe they're not as successful as they'd like to be? Can you speak to them for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, at the risk of, I'm sure I'll throw in some cliche phrases here, but the cliche is because it's so true that it's been said so many times that people roll their eyes because they've heard it so much, right? Like that's a reframe on when something is cliche. But one of my favorite, in fact, this is our company slogan this year. So it's one of my favorite slogans, and it came from I'm sure he didn't invent it, but a friend of mine, Eric Stranghoner, he simply says, your best is yet to come. And I believe that we create our own reality. So, because that's actually, I think, John, it's interesting. That's actually something that the other side of the coin you mentioned, like, oh, what have I accomplished up until this point? I should be further along. I definitely deal with that. I also deal with the other side of the coin, which is, are my best years behind me? Did I already reach my peak? And I saw on social media today, a good friend of mine, he posted pictures from 2016. He goes, I think I might have peaked in 2016, and I had no idea how great things were at that time. And so he creates his own reality, which is, if he decides that he peaked in 2016, then he did, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to the cliche phrase of Henry Ford, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right either way. If you think your best years are behind you and you decide to continue fulfilling that belief, then they are. If you decide that your best is yet to come, then it is. You create your own reality. And so, the new book, The Miracle Morning After 50, A Proven Path to Joy, Vitality, and Purpose for Aging Adults. This was co-authored by Dwayne Clark, who's the founder of Aegis Living. He's 67 years old. He is creating his best life every single day. And he read The Miracle Morning in his early 60s, reached out to me and said, Hal, this book changed my life. And people over 50 that are in the second half of life that are worried that their best years are behind, or that they don't have what it takes to achieve the things that they didn't yet achieve. He said they need this morning ritual so they can start every day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state so they can show up at their best. They can believe in themselves again. They can envision a better future that they can then live into and create. So yeah, so no matter what age you are, your best is yet to come. I'm telling you, I believe it's true, and it becomes true if you decide that it's true.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that something that I can definitely, attest to feeling some of these things, right? Like, I do this, I had this, great sales career early in my life, right?
Yeah.
Then it's, launching this Mr. Thank You movement years ago. And then there's this experience of like, well, but is that the best for me, right? I feel like each time, like kind of my identity has had to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you relate to any of that? Like, you've obviously gone through a lot of phases from being this, lowly sales rep to this, best-selling author. And I'm sure there's a lot of spaces that you've gone in between. Like, what were some of those pieces, like outside of just like making a lot of calls, doing a lot of podcasts?
Yeah.
In what ways do you feel you've evolved as a person
Mm.
to be like truly to become the person who can achieve the success that you have?
Yeah. So it's all in how you're measuring it. It's what you're measuring, right?
Mm.
Meaning, there was a financial peak that I'm no longer at this financial peak that I was at one point in my career. And so sometimes when I measure, will I ever get back to that level of financial abundance? I don't know. Maybe not. So how are you measuring success? And I love the word fulfillment in place of success, because to me, success can seem very superficial. It can be very, very much a metric, right? I'm successful. It can be very based on external results. I'm more spiritual now than I've ever been before. And I think I've been relatively spiritual since my early 20s. I grew up, religious, if you will, but to me, spirituality is more of the direct connection to whatever word you want to use, God, source, the divine. Whereas religion is kind of like a set of beliefs about God, source, the divine. And so in my early 20s, I really started to get far more spiritual, where I was like, oh, how do I connect directly with the God within me, so on and so forth. And so, for example, I just came off of December. In December, normally I meditate for like 10 minutes a day. It's almost like part of my miracle morning, but it's almost like checking the box versus going really deep. And I decided I'm going to go 30 minutes for 30 days. So last month I did 30 minutes of meditation. And the way I framed it actually is 30 minutes with God for 30 days. So meditation, prayer, so if I'm measuring success, if you're measuring your success based on metrics from your past, maybe I won't sell as many books, or maybe I won't sell as much of my product. Maybe my best year was in 2016 and I'm never going to hit that level of financial success again. Okay.
Sure.
Is that what life's about? Is life about financial success? Do you think that's why we're on this planet? Just to make money? And that the measure of our worth and our ultimate fulfillment is based on how many trinkets that we sell and how many dollars that we catch? Like, I don't think so. So, one of my good friends, do you know who Kyle Cease is, John?
I don't think so. No.
Dude, write down the book. As an author, it's funny to promote other people's books. You're like, well, get my book first. But after you read Miracle Morning, then you got to read the book, The Illusion of Money. Kyle Cease, and actually he's a former stand-up comedian, so he's really funny. I would get the audio book because he's just hilarious, and he goes off on tangents all the time. But also follow him on YouTube. Like, he's become one of my best buddies, and I've been a fan of his for like 20 years. We only met a few months ago. His goal in life, and he calls it his inner intention. He says goals are external, inner intentions about who are you being? How are you experiencing every moment of your life? So he focuses more on inner intentions versus goals. And he said a few years ago, he was praying to God. He was in meditation and prayer. And he just said, God, merge me with my soul at all costs. That is my number one intention, is to merge with my soul at all costs. And he's been running an extraordinarily successful business. He's about to shut it down this year. And we had dinner the other night. I go, hey, how are you going to replace that income? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I don't know, but I have faith it's going to work. Like, I'll figure it out. And so it's amazing that so he's giving up an insane amount of money because that's not his number one goal. And it's not how he measures success and fulfillment anymore. It's about,
Yeah.
is this merging me with my soul? Is this helping me to get to know the truest me? And again, God is how I would define that, right? Like the kingdom of God is within you kind of thing. Okay. How in touch can I get with the essence of who I truly am as a human/spiritual being? So that becomes my measure of success. And I find that, as long as you focus on evolving and becoming the best version of yourself and serving other people, everything seems to work out.
Yeah, what I love about that is, it's kind of like this concept that Simon Sinek talks about is the infinite game, right? There's the finite games and there's the infinite game, right? The
I
finite
love that.
games are the games that like have a specific scoreboard,
Yeah.
that have an end time, that have all these things. The infinite game is the game that you can perpetually play, right?
Yeah.
Becoming the best version of yourself. Well, when are
I
you
was
done?
just going to say that. Yep.
You're never done. You're always evolving to the best version of yourself. But so here's what I'd be curious about, because and I think you're probably one of the best people to speak about this. So just to kind of share a little frame for some of you guys who don't know, when Hal was really truly like at the peak of some of his success with The Miracle Morning and his authorship and speaking and everything, he was suddenly and shockingly diagnosed with a very severe form of cancer. Like, what was the percent of survival that for the diagnosis he received?
20 to 30% of people that was the survival rate. So it was very
That's
low.
a survival rate, by the way. That's not like the death rate. That's a survival rate. So chances against him making it, right? And I believe we are in a unique time where there is, I just have a personal belief. I think that our nervous system was not built to withstand the available negative perspective that is force fed to us every day. Like, I don't like the amount that of political divisiveness and everything that's available for us online. I don't think we were, number one, meant to receive that much, and two, like that we have the capacity to handle it, right? So I think that the world is just in this very like high level, consistent anxiety and stress, and I would also say negativity, like just an unpositive view of the future of what's going to happen of other people. And I think that in general, it starts to bleed down to like, well, what do I even do today? Does it even matter? Like, look what's happening in the world. And I think that people have many of them have really dropped down into their expectations of themselves, their expectations of others, and their overall attitude about life. Can you speak to that? Because I mean, you truly went through arguably like one of the hardest things anyone can go through, which is the true, like you might not be alive.
Yeah.
And how you got through that, and what people can take from that as an idea of how they can approach this experience of life.
Yeah. I mean, you said it really well. It's from that was Matthew Kelly Teaching 101, becoming the best version of yourself is how Matthew Kelly defined the purpose of life, is to become the best version of yourself. That stuck with me. I read that book in 2007 and I've never forgotten it. And it's fundamental in how I live my life. And so everything is an opportunity to become a better version of who you currently are. And that includes adversity. In fact, adversity is arguably the greatest opportunity to learn, grow, evolve, and become a better version of who you were before you encounter the adversity. And that to me is what the Miracle Morning's about. The Miracle Morning's not about being a morning person. It's about every morning dedicating time to these 6 practices to become a better version of who you were the night before when you went to bed. And if you do that every single day, you evolve and you grow and you become, right, a version of yourself that once you couldn't even imagine. When I was diagnosed with cancer, the day that I was diagnosed and given a 20 to 30% chance of surviving, which, right, the other side of that is like 70 to 80% chance, Hal, that you're going to die. And when they diagnosed me, it wasn't like a routine checkup. It was my lungs were failing, my kidneys were failing, and my heart was failing. And the doctor said, Hal, you have 1 week to live if you don't start chemo immediately, maybe 2 at the most. Now, keep in mind, I'm a father. My daughter was 7 years old. My son was 4. So being told, okay, Hal, you're dying right now. Your organs are shutting down. That's what this cancer does to you. You have to start chemotherapy immediately or you're going to be dead in a week. But if you start chemotherapy immediately, there's only a 20 to 30% chance that you're going to be alive in a year. Like, it's like, talk about picking between the worst, like, the better of these horrible options, right? And the cancer is going to destroy your body and your bones and your muscle tissue. it's probably going to kill you, but it might not kill you. And then, so that's what I was faced with. And the first thing is acceptance. That's the most important lesson for all of us. It's the fundamental lens to experience life at all times is radical acceptance. I can't change my current reality, right? No one can change this moment that we're all sharing right now, whether it's the one that you and I are in, John, or a week from now when someone's listening to this or watching this. This moment right now that anyone hearing or watching or you and I experiencing, this moment is reality. Your bank account balance is what it is. Your physical body is what it is, right? Your relationship, the fight you had of this, this is our current reality. And the key that unlocks the door to enlightenment, to emotional freedom, to inner peace is acceptance in one word. It's choosing to accept your reality exactly as it is. And it doesn't mean you're happy about things that aren't favorable, but it's far more powerful than being happy about it. It's being at peace with it. Happiness is a positive emotional state. The other side of the spectrum is the negative emotional states like fear and sadness, and right. But in between the polarities of emotion is a state of consciousness that is known as peace. It's being at peace with life exactly as it is. That is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to choose to accept reality exactly as it is. And from that place, to give yourself the gift to cultivate inner peace. Because from that place of peace, peace is not emotionally charged. It's emotionally neutral. And
right.
That place, when you accept life exactly as it is, you get to choose what emotion would best serve me in this moment. How can I enjoy this one life I've been blessed to live? I'm not resisting reality. I'm not wishing it were different. Yes, I'm going to take steps and make changes, but I'm at peace with this exactly as it is. And when I came out of a coma after being dead for 6 minutes and in a coma for 6 days, this was the exact choice I made. Oh, I have 11 broken bones and permanent brain damage, and I might be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. I'll be the happiest, most grateful person you've ever seen in a wheelchair because I will accept my reality exactly as it is. And so that's what I want to leave everyone with, is that key to emotional freedom and inner peace is, in one word, acceptance. And when you consciously choose to accept reality exactly as it is, doesn't mean you're happy about all the things that you don't like. It means you're at peace because that's the only logical choice that we have.
Yeah, that's so well said. I think the visual that I got was almost like, when we look at life, we can look at it as like a positive or a negative. And whenever you can get to that like radical acceptance, no matter the situation, it's like you kind of put yourself at a neutrality.
Yes.
It's like this you're not like a zero, like life is meaningless, but you're at this place of zero, like you're zeroing out. Like this is just the baseline. This is what life is, and this is okay.
Yeah.
And just like you said, it doesn't mean that you stay there. It doesn't mean you have to be happy with it. It just means that you're accepting reality. Because I believe that all anger and suffering comes from a resistance to reality. Just resist, like whatever shouldn't be happening. Are you sure? Yeah. What if it needs to be happening? What if this is like the critical part?
In the long run, yeah.
Yeah, what if this is a critical part? So,
I want to comment. I know we got to wrap up here, but I want to comment on what you just said, which is it gives you, when you accept reality, you're at a baseline. The cool thing about being at the baseline, being neutral, is that is the place of pure potentiality. Limitless possibility exists from that baseline. It doesn't exist when you're in a negative emotional state. It doesn't exist when you're resisting reality, because you're creating and cultivating all this mental fog and this inner turmoil and this lack of clarity. You've got to get to that baseline through acceptance. And now you have limitless possibilities to choose from.
That's a really good way to put that. That's like a good baseline where like possibility is available to you. So, man, Hal, we could keep talking for a long time.
We'll do it again, man. We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, I know we got to both run to some stuff, but I would love for people to connect with you and to follow you. I know you've got your own podcast. Yeah. Hal is a phenomenal speaker, one of the best speakers on the planet. And if people want to either find you, to book you to speak, or to connect with you, where should they find you? And then also, how do they get the Miracle Morning? Tell us about that.
MiracleMorning.com is the best hub for everything. If you go to miraclemorning.com, you find, obviously, you can link to Amazon, go get the books, the audiobook. But also you can watch the Miracle Morning movie at that site, which is a documentary that features Mel Robbins and Brendan Burchard and Robin Sharma and me and a bunch of other folks. You can download the Miracle Morning app for mobile phone, right? Like, so miraclemorning.com branches off to every Miracle Morning resource, including my podcast, including booking me to speak and deliver the Miracle Morning keynote and all the things, man.
Yeah. And also he has an app that just came out as well, I think a year or two ago, that's been a huge success for a lot of people to help make this idea, this, daily routine a habit, because that's the point that I think that's kind of a thread through everything that we're talking about here. Is it's not about, success isn't just what you do once in a while. It's about what you maintain for a long period of time. And, your success is no surprise to me. And I think to just about everybody who knows you personally, Hal, and I'm grateful for our friendship over the years. And thanks for taking some time with us
John.
today.
I love you, brother. I could say everything you've said about me that's kind, I could reflect right back to you, dude. So thank you so much for the work that you've done in the world, the Mr. Thank You Project, your friendship, and now the podcast, man. Let's go.
Absolutely, man. All right. See you, everybody. Well, that's it for this episode of the Becoming Irreplaceable podcast. But here's some great news. If you can help us grow this show by leaving a review or commenting or sharing about this with a friend, that would mean the world to us, and it's going to allow other business professionals to get the insights and conversations they need to elevate their business. So like, comment, share this show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Becoming Irreplaceable.